Today, I left you with this idea here that if you have a conductor going back and forth, that creates an alternating current. Okay? But instead of doing this, we're going to go in a circle. Good with that? Okay? So we talked about the difference between an alternating and direct current. And then as you were walking out the door, I said, what type of current do you think comes in our outlets?
DC. That's what I thought. I don't know what that means. Wait, what did you say? Wait, really? No, AC is more dangerous than DC. Is AC more dangerous than DC? Wait, no. Does that mean that doesn't make sense? Because then, like, the wire would have to be like constantly moving. Like, you're being real. No, but like, that doesn't make sense to have that guy. The answer. Like, no, like it makes sense, but like, how would it be practical?
I'll show you. That's a great question.
So alternating current isn't. So how is it more dangerous than direct current?
That's an. Can I field that question after class? So that's getting an aspect that I don't really want to emphasize. You all right with that? Okay, you're not gonna get one today. Sorry. All right. So to answer this question, we gotta think what provides. Where does the electricity come from in our outlet? Okay. Do the wires self-produce electricity? Where do we get that? Where does it come from, Maddox? Oh, I thought you. Sorry. Okay. Company, electric company. What does the electric company have? Do they have big batteries, or do you think they have big generators? They have big generators. Okay. So, what? Yeah. Ben.
So like when a power company's down, like a section won't, houses won't have power.
Yes.
Like, what typically happens?
Great question. So usually it's not the whole power company that goes down. It's usually a wire that like a branch fell on or something like that and broke that wire. So there's a whole grid, and usually there's multiple paths to a certain neighborhood, but sometimes multiple paths break down and it knocks out a neighborhood or a row of houses on a street or something like that.
What do blackouts happen? Like most of New York and New Jersey, they get like blackouts.
That would be either that's problem with the power company. Like sometimes the generator will they usually have like multiple generators going on. One's off, having maintenance, while the other two are going, something like that. And cities have consume vast amounts of energy, and so if there's more energy being used than is available, that's where you get either brownouts or blackouts. Brownouts is kind of the flicker thing. And in some developing countries, they actually have scheduled blackouts where, like, this sector is not going to have electricity from the hours of noon to 4, and then this is going to go from 4 to 8. And they just kind of, because they don't have the infrastructure to produce enough electricity to provide for the whole city. So, does that answer that question? Okay. All right. So, here's a generator. Here's a simple model of a generator. You got a magnetic field and you got wire loops. And we're going to cause those wire loops to spin. Okay, and that spinning of the wire loops causes an alternating current. Okay, it actually produces like a sine wave, because algebra 2, sine wave, cosine wave, like that thing that in algebra got introduced to. Okay, there's math that you could do with this, so I'm not going to make you do it, but there is. Okay, so, but it's making an alternating current. Here's another visual of that same thing. So as we rotate this wire loop in this magnetic field, it creates a current that's going back and forth. Okay, switching direction, alternating current. Good with that? Okay. All right, so we want, if we're designing a generator, we want it to produce the most possible, most current, most voltage. How can we do that? What can we do to create a generator that has maximum increased amount of voltage produced, induced? Thoughts? What exactly are we making bigger? Everything. Okay, Bennett. Have a stronger magnetic field. We can make the loop spin faster because it has a greater change, the rate of change of magnetic field. Okay, Andrew. Yes, if you have more conductor experiencing that change in magnetic field, so more loops of wire, you're going to have a greater voltage. Okay, so generators, that's what we're going for. Okay, so if you turn your attention,
I need that.
No thanks. Yeah. Okay, what I have here is a hand crank generator. Okay, as I turn this, angry. Okay, notice, what does this cage kind of look like? Magnets. What? Crazy. And what do you think it is that I'm spinning? Loops of wire. Okay, notice how it's kind of pulsating, because it's changing its direction. If I go fast enough, it doesn't have time to cool down, and it looks steady. Does that make sense? Okay, so in power companies, electric companies, something has to turn the loops of wire. In this demonstration, I was spinning the loops of wire, but what, in the power company, what spins the loops of wire? Do we have a really big hamster wheel with a whole horde of hamsters, like, like? So what causes the wire loops to spin? Something has to. Okay, so one way would be to take, typically what we'll do is take, if any of you have like a home generator, you have an engine that you put either gasoline or diesel or propane into, that burns that engine spins the wire loops. Okay, JP. Okay. Not so much sun, but yes, So windmills, they're always turning. Why are they turning? To spin the wire loops. Does that make sense? Like in each one of those, in the body of them behind the propeller is a generator that's spinning loops of wire in a magnetic field, creating electricity. Good with that? Okay. Um, so another example that was brought up was hydroelectric. So you can build a dam and make the water really deep at a certain location. The deeper the water, the greater the pressure. Like pressure is totally dependent upon depth. So you make a really deep spot, usually like in a canyon. You dam up the canyon, and so it's really deep. It doesn't have to be wide; it just needs to be deep. And that's taking that high pressure water and it's shooting through turbines, which is like a water propeller, a water windmill, and it spins those wire loops. Okay. Other ways that we spin the loops of wire. Like we have windmills. Most of that stuff is being outsourced to like the coast money. I think like East Coast like pays a premium for green energy. Um, hot heat's necessary.
Steam.
Okay, so how are we going to produce steam? We need heat to make steam. Okay, one example is nuclear. The other more popular example is burning coal. Okay, so burning coal produces heat. Nuclear reaction produces heat. We take that heat and we boil water to make steam. We take that high pressure steam and shoot it through turbines and spin the wire loops. That is where, like, I would say, so my father-in-law used to work in a power plant, and I would say at this point in time, probably 75% of our energy, of electricity, is produced by coal burning power plants. Definitely in this region. Okay, there are a couple smaller hydroelectric. There are some windmills, but by and large, most of the stuff we have is coal burning power plants. Okay, now I want to like take a step and talk about what's environmentally good because that's a hot topic. Um, so, and I am all for like I think it's there's always a balance, but like it's good to take care of what we've been given to be able to give it to our great grandkids and like their like to say, well, screw them, we'll just use it. Like that's not cool. Like it's selfish jerk. Um, but when you talk about what's green and what's not, you gotta look at the big picture. So like um, coal versus nuclear, um, pros and cons to both. Nuclear is on a whole cleaner unless something goes wrong, and then it's really bad for the local area, 20-mile radius. I'm making that number up, but like that local area, really not good. Okay, but in terms of the net, how much it, you know, what that does, nuclear is definitely cleaner than coal. Uh, Windmills only make like 5% of the amount of electricity that we use on a daily basis. Um, Solar panels, those are becoming really popular in Carroll County. Farmers are selling their land off like at a really high price because of government incentives. They're putting up these solar farms. Solar is getting better as technology and gets better as it improves. But when we're talking about green, like what's good for the environment, you have to look at the big picture, not just when it's being used, but what are the chemical processes and all that stuff to make them. And then we always look at like while it's being used, but what happens after they're broken? Because they're not going to last forever. Windmills aren't going to last forever. Like what happens then? Like solar panels are the materials they use. Is that good for the environment when you throw those in the landfill? Because at some point, or like electric cars for that matter, like all that, like watch carefully when someone's like, oh, this is good for the environment or green. It might be during that point where you're observing, or especially the point at which they're like advertising it, like, hey, it's good, but you gotta look at the big picture. Does that make sense? Like, don't just, people want you to know they're green, so they're gonna, it's not always the case. Get to that? That's kind of my little social or like environmental societal thing. Okay. So when you plug something in, what are you getting out of the outlet? Gotta start somewhere.
Have you been instructed?
Okay. If it was direct current, you could answer C. Okay. I mean, it'd take a long time before they got there, but sure. But it's AC, it's alternating current. So when you plug something in, all you're doing is making the electrons jiggle back and forth. They're not going anywhere. There's like, whoa, 60 times a second. Does that make sense? You're just getting energy. That's it. Okay. Okay. So if you've ever hooked up an outlet or seen like behind the hood of like the wiring in your house, in a wire, if you've like broken that apart, there's usually 3 wires. There's a black wire, a white wire, and a bare copper wire. Okay. So instead of saying positive and negative, because it's not positive, it's not direct current. There's the black wire is usually traditionally designated as the hot wire. So in the hot wire, the electrons are already vibrating back and forth. Like, come on, plug me up to something. I'm ready to get some other people going back and forth. Okay. There's the ground wire, which is the white wire. No, sorry. The white wire is the neutral. Thank you. Okay. And that is if you connect the black wire and the white wire together, you have a complete circuit. And the white wire is now vibrating with 60 cycles per second. But when it's not plugged in, it's just sitting there ready to go. Okay. And then the bare copper wire, that's the ground wire. That's the third prong. That's the thing we talked about with the washing machine. Okay. So that's just a safety device. So if you stick a knife in the outlet, you have a 50-50 shot of living or dying. Okay. Because one side's neutral, the other side's hot. Does that make sense? Okay, not suggesting you do any of those things, but it probably won't kill you. I mean, it has the potential, but probably wouldn't. Okay. So LEDs are where things are going, light bulb wise. Okay, so LEDs. The crazy thing with these is current can only go one way through an LED. If current goes one way, it'll turn on. If current goes the other way, it'll turn off. But with alternating current, that's exactly what it does, is it goes back and forth 60 times a second. So if you've ever noticed LEDs strobe light, like they strobe off and on 60 times a second. Okay, you don't really see it now, but if I shake this, oh, that looks so cool in the video. Do you see it, how it's flashing on and off? Okay, here's another. You see that? You don't see how it's strobing?
I see it. Go faster than oh yeah.
Like you see it at certain spots and other times you don't. See it? Yes, no? We're good with that? 60 times a second. Here, you don't see it, but if you move it or move your head fast, you can see it. JP.
So in old Christmas lights, if you take one out.
Yeah.
So does that mean that's a parallel circuit?
I mean, it depends on how high quality your Christmas lights are. Sometimes they'll have multiple wires, so some of them will be in parallel. So like these are out, but these aren't. Kind of depends on, like, the cheaper the lights, the more part of it's in the series. So okay. All right. All right. So here is a weird question.
I feel like you would only write absurd if that was right, you know?
All right. So correct answer is yes. Here's the idea. So a motor has a magnetic field, has a loop of wire that can spin. A generator has a magnetic field and a loop of wire that you can spin. For a motor, you hook this up to a battery, and you have current going through this wire loop, and it makes it spin. And a generator, you make it spin, and you get electric current out. Okay?
fixed to the loop of copper wire.
So this is
The
a motor.
commutator rotates freely, rubbing against the brushes. Now, when we pass current through the circuit, this creates a magnetic field around the wire, which interacts with the field of the permanent magnet to produce a rotation of the loop that looks like this. The electric motor and the electric generator are related like two sides of a coin. In general, the task of an electric motor is to convert electrical current into mechanical force.
Okay, so when we're doing a motor, what type of energy do we start with? Like, what's our input? Current. So we'll say in general, electrical energy. Okay. What type of energy do we get out? Mechanical. You're moving something. Something's spinning. You okay with that? Like the whole point of a motor is to move something. Okay. Compared to,
On the other hand, an electrical generator converts mechanical force into electrical current. So as you can see,
okay, so a generator, what do you put in? Mechanical energy. You're moving, you're putting force, you're doing work. Okay? And what do you get out? Electrical energy. Crazy.
we can simply rearrange our motor into a generator. In this case, we will provide the mechanical force with a windmill rotor attached to the loop and connect a bulb in place of the battery. We will leave the magnetic field as it is, and as the wind rotates the blade, an electrical current is produced.
Cool with that? Okay. What I have here is a hand crank generator. Okay, as I spin this, putting mechanical energy in and electrical energy out. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is pretty impractical. I don't know why you would do this other than just for curiosity's sake or just for science. I'm going to hook up a generator to a generator. Right? Like, why would you do that? Why not? I mean, we're experimenting. Kind of is. Okay. Now, Josh, hold that above your head, please. Okay. Now, what I've got is this is all connected. Okay. As I spin this, okay, it would work the same, but that one's kind of that one's fragile.
So if he spins that, will
it would, yes, theoretically. So here's the idea. I'm spinning this, mechanical energy goes in, electrical energy goes out. This is that current that it produces is going in here. The input is current, the output is spinning. Okay? To go even deeper down this rabbit hole, if you look inside of this generator, that gray thing right there. If you look inside this thing, I'll pass this around. If you don't care, you can pass along. You will find one of these. What are these? A motor. So if I spin this, it's a generator. If I plug this up to a battery, it's a motor. It's the same piece, just depending on what you do to it, like what do you put into it, determines what you get out of it. Crazy. Cool with that? All right, so microphones and speakers have the same relationship as motors and generators. Okay? They're the same thing, just opposite functions. Okay? Here's how a microphone works. You've got your voice causes this diaphragm to vibrate. Okay? That behind that diaphragm is a coil of wire. So as the diaphragm vibrates, that causes this coil of wire to vibrate as well. But that coil of wire is surrounded by a magnetic field. So this coil of wire is vibrating in this magnetic field. What happens when you get a coil of wire or wire going back and forth, experiencing a changing magnetic field? What happens? What happens when a wire experiences a changing magnetic field? Current is induced if it's hooked up to a complete circuit. Okay? So this is creating an alternating current going back and forth. Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're encoding our sound waves into an electrical signal, alternating current. Okay? That signal, that alternating current signal, is usually sent to an amplifier because the strength of that current is really small. So we send it to an amplifier to amplify it, to make it bigger, make the current stronger. And that stronger current is then sent to the speaker through these wires. Okay? A speaker has a coil of wire in a magnetic field with a diaphragm. Just like a microphone has a coil of wire in a magnetic field on a diaphragm. Same pieces, opposite function, because here I have current going into here in a magnetic field. What happens when current is in a wire in a magnetic field? Experiences a force. Okay, second foundational fact. Okay, when the current is going one way, the diaphragm's pushed out. But when the current is going the other way, it's pushed back in. And so if you change the direction of current, it causes this diaphragm to vibrate, thus creating sound waves. And that's how a speaker works. Okay? You're going to have to listen close to this one. This next video is quiet.
A diaphragm, just a plastic membrane. Stuck to the membrane, a copper coil. The coil is inserted into the magnet. When the current circulates through the copper coil, it creates an electromagnetic force that pushes on the coil. By changing the direction of the electric current in the coil, we change the direction of that force. So, The coil is pushed one way when the electric current circulates in one direction, and the opposite way when the current changes direction. Since the coil is attached to the diaphragm, where one goes, the other goes too. This interaction is the key to understanding how a speaker works. All of this happens in a fraction of a second, because the current changes direction very quickly. Up to 26,000 back and forth times a second.
Okay. Cool with that? All right. Come on back here. Got some demonstrations for you.
I got this
Nice. All right. So, what I have here is, let's start with this. This is a speaker whose body has been donated to science. Okay, so if you pull apart a speaker, if you ever moved a speaker, you know there's a heavy part. That heavy part is the magnet. Okay. The way that this magnet is arranged is this. Let's pretend you got this horseshoe magnet, and we'll say this is the North Pole and this is the South Pole. Okay. We're going to pivot this around here. So we're going to go, we're going to sweep the South Pole around. So the South Pole is all around this, like in a ring. Can you like visualize that? And you got this like trough or this groove in here that goes around. Okay. This is where, in this groove, this is where the wire goes. Okay. So this groove is this ring right here. Okay. This guy right there. That's the, like, this would be like the north. I'm making this up. And the outside would be the south. The wire, sorry, groove in the center there. The wire is this red part. This is the wire loops. This part here. That fits in that little groove. So when current goes through that red wire, it experiences a force and this vibrates back and forth. Okay, and that's what creates sound. Pass it around. This one's not as destroyed. So if you ever hear your the speaker that like might have torn like it's been too loud, that actually is because the cone rips, the diaphragm rips. Okay, pass that around. Okay, so what I have here is I have a functioning speaker that's hooked up. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this up to my green power supply and watch this when I turn it on. See it moving? Okay. What do you think is going to happen if I switch this? See that? Okay, it's going down. Now, if I take this, this is our direct current. The yellow is my alternating current. Didn't even know that existed, did you? Didn't even see it coming. Okay, plug this up to alternating current. And this is the sound of 60 cycles per second, 60 hertz. This is vibrating up and down 60 times every second. You can feel this. Like, come on up and like touch it. It's just vibrating. Not going to shock you. Did it shock you?
It did actually shock me.
That's you're probably ecstatic. You're like,
I don't like that.
okay. Get to that. Okay. Now, this is boring to listen to. Okay. We like to listen to music. So, how does that come about? All you do is you just connect these wires to okay. So, what do you think are in these wires? You hear little voices like
Sound wave.
not sound. Well,
Electrons.
are doing what? What are electrons doing?
They're vibrating.
They're moving back and forth at different frequencies. Each frequency corresponds to a different node. Okay? And so you can feel the speaker, like if you put your hand on that, you can feel the vibrations. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Good question. We'll talk more about that when we get to sound. Okay. Nope, it still works. Just the same. Okay? There is a consequence, and we'll talk about it. But you can't hear any different. Okay? Now, people are always like asking, hey, how do I make my speakers louder? You just turn up the volume. Okay? What does turn up the volume do? Not faster. It increases the current. Okay? Now, if you're like, if you want to, so there's really no life hack because you can't just, you're going to rip your speaker at some point. So if you want louder music, you got to buy a speaker that can handle the louder music because otherwise you're just going to ruin it. Does that make sense? Like you can make more current, you can increase the magnetic field, yes, but you're going to destroy your speaker in the process. It does. So, yeah, so you got that. All right, so this demonstration, I've got two speakers that are hooked together, wired together with this long cord. Okay? Now, if two speakers, long wire. If I talk into one, this is acting like a microphone, but this one's acting like a speaker. But if I talk into this one's acting like a microphone, and this one's acting like a speaker. Because it's the same thing, just opposite functions. Okay, so don't hear anything? Hello. Oh dear.
He broke his out. It wasn't me, it was Andrew.
No.
It was Andrew.
Patrick did it.
Hello, 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 Sunday.
Oh,
Don't get short. No.
he's actually taking a nap.
You want to do that?
He's
Yeah,
standing up
yeah.
while sleeping.
We should have like fake music in the background.
To sleep. You baller.
Hello, 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 hello. Cat.
Oh, it's that one. All right.
Don't break his L.
Oh, I see. Hello.
You hear it? No?
John, like,
Maybe you have bad
So
ears.
it's
Yeah, it's there.
oh, this is like really faint.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Here, you do it.
Like,
Hello?
You hear anything?
No.
Oh, I can't tell if I'm hearing him or from
Hold on, Joe. Do it.
Bennett Robinson.
Mr. Smiley, you're tripping, bro.
Because of those gosh darn AirPods.
we made this up like
Playing their.
It worked.
Hello?
I think I heard that.
Yeah, Buster, you're tripping.
Buster Brown.
Buster Brown.
I really believe my
Come on, baby.
Mr. Smiley, when you talk in circles,
Because remember,
make sure
no,
you tell me
remember
what
when
you stand.
he said that your tongue.
Buster at Brown, baby. Get anything? Nothing.
Why don't we
Nothing.
just use an actual microphone?
Yeah, okay.
Because that's not the experiment, baby.
No, but if you have
Probably
one,
trying to
That's a
sell it.
kick.
if you have one ear, you put out one.
Maybe if you
Yeah,
Wait, if I talk into a speaker, will it come out of the microphone?
Buster Brown.
As long as it's not
No, because there's an amplifier that's
Maybe we
like.
need to go farther apart.
No, it's this connection here. This is always. Yeah. Ah. That's a kick in the shorts.
I wish I was in a baby. I know. Why are they so far? Just go get her.
He's got.
I do have a knife.
So much resistance says you can see him.
All right. Well, that's the physics show today, kids.
Yay!